Welcome on board, everyone. Welcome into Matchday -1. Great to have you with us. Adrian, Healey and Michael Lahoud here at the St. David's Performance Center. Matchday -1 presented by PointsBet, founding partner of Austin FC. Back in the saddle, Michael, ahead of Austin's trip to Seattle. We just watched training this morning. The players are gathering, heading on the bus, getting on the plane to fly up to the beautiful Pacific Northwest and look to get back on track after a couple of little bumps in the road.
Hopefully the weather holds up.
Yeah.
For starters, it's supposed to be sublime weather. Slightly in favor of Austin in the 90s from what we were hearing from some of staff and players. And the football, the soccer, if you will, getting back to the levels that we know Austin FC can get back to. Mentality is going to be prime in a matchup like this.
Well, I think it is worthwhile doing what we'll call a reset, isn't it? Coming off the last couple of games and heading into now what is truly just amazing to think. This is game number 30 of the season. 5 to go. Only 2 road games left, both in the Pacific Northwest, 3 home games. And, it's just worth kind of reminding ourselves that it's pretty rosy in the garden, isn't it? It's been a couple of rain showers recently, literally, preventing games, but it's still very, very rosy when you look at what we've done in our second season. Still, we sit there with 60 goals scored, second best in MLS, only behind the Philadelphia Union at this point, and still a chance to be record breakers. I mean, we're still looking at, right now, Michael, as we sit here today, a 20-point improvement over last season and a chance to match the all-time record set by your old boys, Chivas, way back when, which was, I think, 25 points. So 2 more wins will get them the best ever improvement as an expansion team from year 1 to year 2.
We have to look at the body of work, and I like to call it realistic optimism with what Austin FC have done in year 2. This is a team that last year had the DNA, had the foundation set up in what type of soccer team were you going to have? Possession-oriented, dynamic in nature, dynamic in the final third, but we're just missing that execution in the box in front of goal. This season, goals galore. They got Maxi Ruti, MLS veterans, and Felipe Ethan Finley, and then, of course, Sebastian Driussi, the guy who was in the race for a big award from last time we checked. So it's been check, check, check. And now, with this final run-in, they have to get back to hitting it in high gear, and that means executing with goals once again.
It's so easy, isn't it? As for all of us, as fans, as onlookers, as supporters of this team, to get kind of wrapped up in the day-to-day and the week-to-week, and when a couple of results do go against you, and it's just human nature. It happens. It's like you start to say, what's going wrong? It's just worth reminding ourselves what has gone right, because no team can go through a season without a bump in the road, Michael, whatever league you're playing in.
Think back to this summer run and the runs with games on the road. The amount of games where Austin FC went from being in losing positions and turning losses not just into draws, but wins. That's miracle working, for one, and to do it consistently in 2022 has been miraculous. We've been fortunate to call all those games. And now the exhaustion period that we saw last week. Last week was exhausting for the players and staff to have 3 games, 2 weather delays. It's no easy feat. I've been there as a player. I cannot understate how difficult that is. But now you get a full week to rest and prep, and you go up against a team that's desperate in Seattle.
And you still have it right there in front of you, don't you? A chance to clinch the playoffs. And again, it's in our own hands. The easiest scenario, obviously, is winning in. And win is something they've done a lot of on the road this season. Still, remind yourself, 8 road wins, most in the Western Conference. Only the Red Bulls have surpassed us overall for road record. So it's still there, isn't it? And it is a massive dangling carrot at the end of that stick. Winning in, can even get in with a draw. I don't know if you want me to go through the scenarios.
I believe you should, because we'll take anything we can to get in.
They're actually not as complicated as I remember last week. If they'd drawn in Nashville, there were all sorts of permutations. This one, we only need one of these 3 to happen tomorrow to clinch the Austin spot, and that would be the first one's probably the most unlikely, and that is RSL not to win at home to DC United. You see where the problem lies with that scenario?
I have no clue what you might be talking about apart from losses.
Portland not winning against Minnesota or an LA loss against Nashville. Any one of those three scenarios coupled with a draw for us in Seattle does finally rubber stamp that playoff place.
I don't think there's a single member of this team and this staff that isn't thinking about scenario number one.
Which is just win, yeah.
And you're in. Yeah. You want to control your own destiny getting into the playoffs. This team has earned the right to control their own destiny because the body of work, which we talked about before, the body of work sets you up to win and you're in, but you got to do it first.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we've been in this kind of netherworld for the last couple of weeks where, listen, we all know 51 points is going to be enough to get in. It's just not. You know, those pesky stats guys tell us, no, it's not confirmed yet. So, and it isn't. Mathematically, it's not. So you've still got to rubber stamp it. It'd be so nice just to take care of that business before coming home for another 2 games, RSL Nashville.
For playoff teams and for a team like Austin FC, which has been at the top of the table, top of the Western Conference in the Supporters Shield race for much of the season, you want to build momentum before the playoffs come.
Yeah.
And the numbers are saying all the right things for the body of work that's been done, but momentum is what gets it done in this next phase of things. And the playoffs don't start when that regular season game finishes and the final whistle blows. Yeah. The playoffs and what you are going to do and how you're going to fare really starts in this final run-in.
Yeah, and I think you can definitely make an argument that the adversity we faced in the last couple of weeks will stand us in good stead. They've been against the type of teams we're going to be playing in the playoffs. Good it happens now than in a month's time. So let's get to tomorrow, Michael, and the opposition. The Seattle Sounders have been in every Western Conference playoff picture, haven't they, since they were birthed as a club in 2009. We always seem to have very interesting and tight and close games against Seattle. Before we get into what's happened to them this season, do you expect the same sort of tight, close game? Goals haven't flown between these two teams in the prior 3 meetings. Is it going to be another one of those encounters, do you think?
I think there will be goals in this one. And because of the desperation hour for the Sounders, the magnitude of the game for both teams are going to want to push the envelope. And it favors Austin FC because that desperation isn't quite there for Austin FC yet. It's the pressure that the staff and the players will put on themselves to get the job done. But for Seattle and teams like Seattle who can't afford any more moments of error whatsoever or else their season's done, they're going to have to start throwing numbers up, and that means transition. They will be vulnerable in transition moments.
And I'm sure a lot of Austin fans are thinking about it with an air of concern, looking at what Seattle, where they are. I think this is a must-win game for them. Do you? I mean, maybe a draw keeps them in the picture. For them, what are they? Still 6 points off the playoff pace. With Portland just above the line, games are running out for the Sounders.
I think I agree with you. I think this is an absolute must-win. The fact that last game they were trailing against Houston and they were playing like a team that had a must-win game on their hands. You don't want to be in this position where you're the Sounders and you're dependent on other teams. Yeah. They're looking up at that line just with rosary beads in their hand, hoping that teams lose, but they have a good chance as well as we do to really control their own destiny.
Yeah, and when you are playing a desperate team at home, is there a mentality you have to have? What do Austin have to do to counteract that, Michael, is what interests me tomorrow about the approach.
I think, number one, you have to bring the energy and make it a dogfight. First and foremost, Seattle does not fare well in games where it's gritty, it's scrappy. Teams that have been successful have gone there and kicked all their best players and not allowed them to play. And I think for Austin FC, we've seen them do that against talented teams, Atlanta United, who haven't had a good season, but they've gone away on the road and said, you know what, you are not going to get any room to breathe. You are not going to get any room to function, and we're going to make you sweat for 90 minutes. And, we have skilled, talented players of our own who can execute in the final third.
This is the reigning CONCACAF champions that we are playing in the Seattle Sounders. Let's not remind ourselves that they became the first MLS team to win the CCL back in April, just a couple of weeks after we last played them, a 1-1 draw at Q2 Stadium back at the end of March. They've certainly, when you've had a big emotional success like that, kind of explains some of their lackluster play in the league since then. They've also had injuries to contend with. No João Paulo pretty much since that CONCACAF Champions League final. Ladero out for a big stretch. Rui Diaz out for a big stretch. They're both back, missing one of the roll downs. So there's been reasons for their slump.
I think Albert Rusnak coming in. I think this is a Seattle team that was built to go after the CONCACAF Champions League, not so much MLS Cup, because you have to have more depth in your team. I think the fact that they got a player like Rusnak was to get that added quality to say, hey, no one's done this in the modern era in Major League Soccer. Let's get this sort of player who's a DP for RSL, bring him in and chase this title. They've done that. Mission accomplished. Congrats to them, as we've all said in Major League Soccer. But just the physical toll that takes to fly all around the Americas at the start of the season, they look to be a team that kind of has been running out of gas towards the end. But they got a big result last week.
Yeah, they did. Still got a dangerous front four. I think we can get at their back six, though, Michael, don't you? With Arriaga and Yaimar as the two centre-backs. Nuhu on one side, probably roll down the other, maybe. Lever and Atencio. I think we can do damage there.
I would 100% agree with you. It's you look at the last games they've had, they've given up quite a few goals. And it's their inability to put together a complete game that's cost them. Last week, they put together a comeback win when they were down early against Houston, and they had to really scrap for goals, one from Nuhu. Not your usual goal source, but he came to life when they needed him most, getting a goal and an assist. But the body of work in the month of August has not been kind to them, and hopefully it'll continue this month in September.
You know what is going to continue? Us looking forward with some relish to the weekly edition of the Lahoud Mood. I have been almost on tenterhooks, wondering where you're going to go with it this week. What is the Lahoud Mood heading into Seattle?
Well, as always, it's the pre-mood, and Cam Kubik, he also looks forward to it. So shout out to Cam. He's in the room with us. He got a sneak peek of it, but I'm going to pace myself because we got 3 games in a week.
Yep.
And so today's Lahoud Mood is composed. And for Austin FC to have the composure to get 3 points, they'll need to do these 2 pre-mood things. Number 1 is get numbers in the box. You said Seattle is vulnerable. Teams that do well against them do well in transition to get numbers in the box. Last spring, here at Q2 Stadium, Austin FC were the kings of that, getting 4 or 5, sometimes 6 towards the end of the game to really push for that goal, and also switching the point of attack. Seattle, whether they play a back 4, back 5, sit in a low block. They'll leave some players high, the Rui Diaz's, the Laderos, waiting for the counter. They'll bring numbers low and bring numbers to the near side, so that far side will be wide open for the diagonal, and then 3v2s or even 3v1s at times over the shoulders with runs of the outside backs will be on.
Yeah. Set pieces again will be key. We've been hurt by set pieces in the last couple of games. I think we can do some damage with set pieces in this game.
They are very vulnerable on set pieces. It's not what they do. I think Fry, in particular, has been vulnerable. Hasn't looked himself since the CONCACAF Champions League final. I know he's dealt with some injury woes in the last couple seasons, but a goalkeeper's confidence is everything on set pieces. And Austin FC could take advantage, especially with him trying to be aggressive to regain confidence.
Yeah. I also, when you look at the overall squads, no matter who the starting 11s are going to be, I think we have more depth on the bench, looking at their potential subs if they go with the same 11 as last week. I think... Yeah, and Josh talks about this a lot, doesn't he, in this building? Our contributions off the bench have been game-changing so many times this season.
Absolutely, and towards this stretch of the season, subs change games, but goals change games. Whether they come from starters or subs, Austin FC need to get back to goal-scoring form.
Yes, indeed. Really, really intriguing matchup for the Verde and Black. As I said, 0-0 up there last year, Michael, I think was one of our best road displays of year one. It kind of gets forgotten about, doesn't it? Because it was still early on before Q2 Stadium had opened. We went up there and got a very, very good 0-0 draw. We just kind of played with a grittiness on that day that I think we will need to rediscover tomorrow.
Most importantly, they played with a togetherness.
Yeah.
There was a sense of everyone being bought into the difficulty of the task at hand. That was during Seattle's run where they couldn't stop winning at the start of last season. They were smashing everyone that came to their home field, Lumen Field. This year, Seattle, very good at home, poor on the road. Can Austin FC spoil the party once again for a home team?
Yeah, and then there was that 1-1 draw here at the end of March, and we were just looking back at some of the highlights of that game. You forget how many chances we had in that game. Will Brown gave him the lead. Diego Fagundes, you might remember, came off the bench. Talking about contributions off the bench, came off the bench to score in that game. And then at 1-1, we had 2 or 3 golden opportunities. Alex Ring clanged one off the bar.
I think the bar's still rattling.
Yeah. So,
I think just to put a cap on that game, I think that game came down to miraculous goalkeeping.
Yeah.
Cleveland was almost possessed.
In goal right
he
there,
stood on his head
Yeah.
for the last 30 minutes of the game. And sometimes those things happen. Don't think it'll happen twice.
No. So, Seattle and Austin at the start of the real stretch one. 3 games in a week. Then they break for a couple of weeks. Then the last 2 regular season games. We will end today with a moment of gratitude, as we always like to do, shining a light on other areas of the club. And big announcement yesterday, Michael, that we should send some gratitude out to is our new partnership with PSV Eindhoven, which is going to be absolutely terrific. Just announced yesterday, the 2 clubs will be exchanging expertise on first team and academy and technical matters. Ernst Faber was here from the club, signing with Claudia Reyna with the Dutch Queen. Her Majesty Queen Maxima was at the stadium yesterday. I got to MC an event involving all of them last night, which was terrific. But what a huge step for the club to sign an agreement with a team who, you know it, Michael, as well as I do. They are one of the big 3 in Holland, in the Netherlands, always have been, and have produced so many good players over the years from that youth academy.
The Netherlands is a football factory. We saw Ajax do it in the Champions League, PSV doing it in the Europa League, getting a strong result on Thursday. I think it was 1-1 draw. What excites me about this is, yes, there's an exchange of data, but at what point will that relationship go to possible exchange of players?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something? I know Danny Houston will be teaming with excitement, and we got to talk with him a bit, and he said, hey, this is awesome. Just a personal moment for him, and congratulations to you as well for emceeing it. Those are little gems that come with the job.
That falls in the things you never thought you'd be doing part of your job description. But yeah, no, it was a real honor, and Ernst Faber, who was here representing PSV, is someone I remember as a player. He actually played against Claudia Reyna. He was reminding me in the Champions League for PSV against Rangers back in the late 90s. So a lot of ties between the 2 clubs. I wonder if Josh will be talking to Ruud van Nistelrooy, the PSV coach, at all. Maybe the 2 coaching staffs will exchange ideas. But all these partnerships are brilliant, Michael. Even if it doesn't result in, PSV players transferring to Austin or vice versa. That's not what this is really about. It's really about kind of furthering the cultures and ideas of both teams.
2 international brands, Austin FC really hitting the international landscape. And look, they said, welcome the world to Austin. And this is an example of that. Just a little nugget for you. Can you imagine the front line of Josh Wolf and Ruud van Nistelrooy going back in time? I think any coach in the world would like that, especially in Major League Soccer.
Yeah. Are they going to produce the next Iron Robin? That is the key. Or will we, with knowledge gained from them? So anyway, shout out to PSV. It was great to have them in the house yesterday, and Queen Maxima too, who's in Houston today, actually, finishing up her trip. So we will finish the show for today. Tomorrow, Michael, we are on the CW. A little bit of an earlier start, 6:30 pre-game show. 7 o'clock game time, so you can get all your UT watching and post-game celebrations out the way. Maybe it will still be flowing, and you can just run right into the Austin game at 6:30. Rather glad that there's not a time clash this week as there was last week.
As am I. Traffic downtown is going to be a heck of a thing.
Yes. So enjoy the day, everyone. Enjoy the game, and hopefully next time we're talking to you, Austin FC will have rubber stamped that playoff place. Let's hope.